Okay. Testing, testing, testing. Come in. Come in. Want me to introduce you first before you come on stage? I don't care. I just mentioned a few things about your bio and then come on stage. All right, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I believe you're all well fed and watered and ready for the afternoon session. So today we have Dr. Christine Kuhn, our second plenary speaker, or second plenary session speaker, the first speaker. Dr. Christine Kuhn will be talking to us about measuring what matters, impact on the TESOL professional. Dr. Kuhn is the past president of TESOL International Association, 2011 to 2012. She is also the past president of TESOL Arabia. Dr. Kuhn is an associate professor at Dubai Higher College of Technology. She has written or co-edited 61 books. She is actively involved with the Toastmasters. And if I want to keep saying all the things that Dr. Christine has done, I think we'll spend the entire time listening to her bio. So I'll just end here and let her take it from me. Dr. Christine Kuhn, you're welcome.
Thank you, Okan. Before I begin, I'd like to get your opinion on the acoustics with this mic. Is it okay? All right, thank you. And I'm going to stay here, I think, because I'm now like with glasses, so I don't want to trip and fall over there. I'm getting used to navigating life with glasses. So my topic is about measuring what matters, TESOL, impact in the TESOL profession. And this topic is near and dear to my heart as well, as was my workshop topic earlier today, because, hey, this is the beginning of the performance appraisal cycle. At least it is at my institution. What about with you? Yes, so lots of what I'll be talking about will relate to performance appraisal. And before I begin officially, one of the things I always talk about when I go to different places, I talk about what are teachers talking about at an institution. And one of the things that they've been saying in the last couple of years, it's performance appraisal. And what do you think? Are they talking about it in a positive or a negative way? Your thoughts? Negative. A negative way, especially when it is linked to money. Okay? So I'd like to share my thoughts on why I chose this topic, as well as I only have 30 minutes, so I'm going to skip how to define excellence and the research that came about or that this is based on, which is career trajectory research. If you want to have a look at the research that I went over, you can email me and ask me for this PowerPoint, and I'll be happy to send it next week. Then we're going to look at some of the major elements within academic work, which is within our performance appraisal. And those include teaching, scholarly output, and service. Then I'm going to share with you some ways that professionals in TESOL measure their impact, as well as look at an activity, an exercise I did in another session on career defining moments, which was a real eye opener for me. Hopefully, if you've got some time upon reflection after the conference, you'll be able to do this too. Then the meat of this is basically strategies. If we want to improve our academic excellence, here are my tips for success and make an impact. And I thought, this is an AI conference. Can we use AI to help? I don't have any thoughts on this, but maybe you all do, and you can add those at the end. So, better? Better? Okay. Yes? Okay. So why this topic? Well, for me, achieving excellence and having an impact has always been a goal of mine and one that I cannot explain because I didn't come from a family who was always kind of pushing me to be excellent. You know, my parents supported me and things like that, but I had a very ill sister all of my life, and my parents' focus was definitely on my sister's medical. So they supported me and they were happy when I was successful, but they weren't, you know, constantly forcing me to do homework and to achieve excellence. So I don't know how this came about. I had no real plan, but along the way, I had many advisors or mentors that helped me along the journey, as many of you. Now, when you look at the research on why people become teachers, there are a number of reasons people go into teaching. One is for altruistic purposes. They want to make a difference or an impact. Raise your hand if this applies to you. Okay. Another is they are seduced by the long summer vacations. Anybody here? Raise your hand. And you can have more than one reason. Some of us come from a long family of teachers. Do we have any? Okay. Others, we are failed actors or actresses, and we kind of like being on stage, basically. Anybody here? We probably know some of those teachers. And another is called life of the mind. And this is the idea that if you surround yourself with young people, it'll keep you young. Although this wasn't one of my original advantages for going into education, it certainly is mine now. Now, when I was TESOL president, so this was a long time ago, I was at a symposium in China, and another well-known TESOL person, David Noonan, I'm sure you've all heard of him. He was there, and I was giving a talk on teacher effectiveness, and I went through these reasons for why we become teachers. And he raised his hand and he said, "Christine, you forgot one." And I said, "Which one is that, David?" And he said, "The accidental teacher." The accidental teacher is one where you don't go out to be a teacher, but you find yourself like in a position where you're a TA or something, or you're doing a teaching job and you think, hey, this is kind of fun, maybe this is for me. So I like Dave. If David Noonan can admit that he was an accidental teacher, I'm also going to admit this. I kind of fell into teaching. Anybody out there? Okay, perfect, good. So I fell into teaching. My quest to achieve academic excellence was gradual. And then a couple of years ago, right before I turned 60, a milestone birthday, I received an invitation from another past president of TESOL, Yilin Sun, to contribute a book in her series called the Foreign Language Teacher Education and Development Series, Selected Works of Renowned TESOL Experts. You see those two words in green? I was really flattered that not only was she considering me an expert, but I was also renowned. So I thought, now this series asks the authors to choose 20 of what they feel are their most impactful presentation or publications in a specific area. She invited me for language assessment literacy, okay, which is an interest of mine. So I thought to myself, do I have 20 published works in assessment? And were they impactful? Well, she thought so. So I said yes. Now I haven't done this book yet. I've been dithering around on it, trying to get permissions from other works. So what they do is you choose your 20 most impactful publications, and you kind of write a reflection about them and what impact you feel you've made. So it's kind of a really nice thing. I thought it was a nice thing. So that, and being, almost 60, I thought it's time to start thinking about my impact. So that's what I did. First of all, a disclaimer. Now, just because I'm here talking about making an impact doesn't mean I think I've hit my stride or whatever. I've done certain things that many people consider to be excellent and to be good achievements, but I'm not really done yet. So that's a little disclaimer before we get started. So the first thing I did was look at how people define excellence. And I looked at so many different things, and I came to the conclusion that the way we define excellence should be a very personal way of defining excellence. So excellence is how you yourself define it, not necessarily how your institution defines excellence. Now, I also found that one important aspect of excellence came from the research on where you are personally in your career trajectory. And I looked at a lot of research on career phase, which dates back up to the 1980s. And there's lots of it out there. And there's lots of research that shows you where you are and what kind of characteristics you have in terms of where you are. And the one I like the most, and I wish I had time to go over this, is this one by Steffi and colleagues. They define 6 kind of stages of career trajectory and career phase. And if we had time to go through each of these, I'd ask you to identify yourself. So the novice are those at the beginning pre-service stage. If you're a student, this is where you're probably at. The apprentice stage is when you get your first classroom. The professional teacher is when you start in looking for your own professional development, and you start learning from your students and from your colleagues. Next up is the expert teacher, where you start incorporating feedback from many stakeholders. Distinguished teacher is where your impact starts to extend beyond the classroom. And emeritus is where you're retired, but you're still actively involved in the profession. I would place myself somewhere in the distinguished. However, I noticed, especially during the pandemic, when we were all sent home to teach online, I kind of backslid back to apprentice, where I pretty much felt that everything went out the window. I didn't really know what I was doing. Luckily, a couple of weeks later, I was, as many of us, an old hand at the process. So the lifestyle of a career teacher, this career phase research, tells you that excellence depends on where you're at in the process. So let's turn now to the elements of academic research. And in most appraisal systems, we look at teaching scholarly output, which is research and publication, and service. If we were in a workshop, I'd ask you to maybe give me some ideas if I've forgotten anything here. So how is teaching ability or teaching effectiveness in your institution measured, not only by you, yourself, and by your institution? Well, teaching impact is measured in a number of ways. Here are some research results. The 3 most widely used measures in the US context are structured classroom observations. Do you get observed by your peers or by your supervisor here? Classroom observations? Yes or no? Yes? Okay. Second is the contributions to student achievement growth. These are all these artifacts that we save in folders to prove that we've developed materials, developed tests, etc. And student perceptions of our teaching effectiveness. Those are the dreaded SFEs, student evaluations of teaching. Now, just like my other area of interest, testing, the major finding here is that multiple measures of teacher effectiveness provide a much more valid and reliable picture of our own teaching effectiveness and teaching abilities. Now, that's direct measurement. Teaching impact can also be inferred from a number of things. Tests of teacher knowledge and skills. My institution in UAE just administered the IELTS exam to all teachers, including native speakers. And in order to get an idea about where everybody fell on the spectrum of language proficiency. Participation in PD, committees, or any kind of mentoring programs is another aspect of appraisal. Instructional artifacts, including lesson plans that we write, materials that we develop, etc. Any kind of self-reporting mechanisms like teaching logs, journals, etc. and input provided by the students themselves, the parents, peers, or administrators. So when I look at my own appraisal system, these are basically the elements that we are measured on in terms of our teaching work. So we want the people who are evaluating our teaching abilities look for us to use a variety of different activities in our classrooms. They want us to successfully complete all aspects of our job, not only the teaching stuff, but all the administrivia that we need to be able to do, like taking attendance, etc. They want us to participate in course or materials preparation and delivery, and the same is true about assessment. They want us to use technology, and now the added is and AI effectively. They want us to engage in professional development. We have a certain number of hours that we have to document, and the documented hours are both self-directed professional development stuff we choose for ourselves, but also other directed, which they tell us we have to complete. And I think this year we're going to be judged on 41 hours of PD per semester. And going to a conference counts, but it is only worth to attend an entire conference 3 hours of PD. Doesn't matter how long you stay and how many hours you put into attending sessions. Participating in shared teaching practices like team teaching, team observation, etc. Contributions to assessment, any kind of development, moderation, etc. And being a formal or informal advisor to everybody, including all stakeholders. And now basically adding to stakeholders, now students are put in the mix as well, which I'll talk more about in the next section. So I'd like to hear yours, maybe in the comments if we've got time. If you hear of a way your teaching or your scholarly output is evaluated, you can share that. So how do you judge your scholarly output? And by this, I mean research and publication, yourself and your institution. Well, the general elements of scholarly work include doing research, basically, organizing, presenting, and participating in conferences. And now an added point is with students, bringing your students along as co-presenters, co-organizers, etc. Publishing your academic work, books, journals, book chapters, etc. And now also with students, bringing them along for the ride as well. Applying for and receiving research grants, both internal to the institution and external, as well as developing creative projects like patents and things like that. And many of what we're judged on is not something English teachers would normally do, like getting a patent. That applies to engineering, but we are still evaluated on that measure. So, measuring your impact, there are some key measures to basically measure what kind of an impact you are having. And the ones that are most mentioned in the literature are the quality of the journals that you publish in, the quality of the publication or the articles, the time cited, their altmetrics, and personal measures like the H-index. Do you all know what an H-index is? Of course, most of you do. Now, I did not know what an H-index was until the pandemic. The H-index is a measure, which I'll talk about in a minute, is a measure that is found on your Google Scholar profile. Do you all have a Google Scholar profile? I'll show you where it's at here in a minute. So the H-index, when I learned that this H-index existed, mine was a 19, okay, in 2020. And I thought, what does that mean? What is an H-index? So an H-index, as per Hirsch, who created this measure, it's if you have an H-index of 20, that means you have 20 publications that were cited at least 20 times in peer-reviewed work. Okay, so this measure is very controversial, but I kind of like the measure because it is one that combines your research productivity as well as the quality of what you're doing. So people who write one thing in their career, and it's cited 5 million times. That's called a one-hit wonder. This does not result in a high H index. And if you write 100 articles and they're only cited one time each, this also does not result in a high H index. Okay, so I was thinking, 19. I wonder what 19 means. So I did some research and I was very surprised. Based on 20 years of research, an H index of 20 is only good. So, I was expecting a little bit more after killing myself for 30 years. I'm good. Okay, now 40 is considered outstanding and 60 is exceptional. I felt a little bit better when I learned that 84% of Nobel Prize winners in physics had at least a 30. So I thought, hey, 19 then was closer to 30 than it was to 40 or 60. But I was kind of disappointed. I'm not sure if you can see this. Do you see where the H index is? Let me see if I can maneuver this. So if you look over there, can you see it? Okay. Now, I was so surprised. Now, I've been monitoring, because I'm a numbers person, my H index all these years, and it really takes you a year of publishing to move up a point. But this year, for some strange reason, and if it's you citing my work, thank you very much, I moved up a point in May when I changed this PowerPoint. But I also checked my H index before coming, and eureka, I was up another point. So it's really hard, and maybe many of you also monitor your own index. It's really hard to get enough citations that are peer-reviewed and included in your profile in order to move up a point. So I'm kind of pleased with myself that I'm now a 28. However, there was one year when I went from a 26 down to a 25. I don't know how that happened, but I'm sure there was a good or not so good reason for it. So H index, and I don't know how I got a Google Scholar profile. I think my institution said a few years ago, create a Google Scholar profile and an ORCID index. And I think I did. I don't remember the beginning of that. Do you all have Google Scholar profiles and ORCID indexes? I'm not even sure if I'm saying ORCID correctly because it's spelled O-R-C-I-D. Yeah, here it is. So this is an author, is that correct? Okay. So an author identifier is another way that you can look at your impact. Things like ORCID, which is open access, and this is a good one because it's linked to things like Researcher ID, author profiling service like Vitae, academia.edu, and ResearchGate. Now, I have all of these, but quite frankly, like social media, I have not been able to keep track of everything like I should. So I keep track of my Google Scholar profile, and that's really about it. So I invite you to think about ways that you can document your impact through any of these author identifiers. I'm looking at the journals we publish in. Journal impact factor is another important one. So impact factor is the most well-known measurement of journal quality, and it measures citations of published work over the past 2 years. So what is an acceptable journal impact factor? Well, according to the literature, anything 10 or greater is considered excellent, but anything over a 3 is considered good. So here you have the top journals, at least in my opinion, within the TESOL profession, and you can see our flagship journal, TESOL Quarterly, or TQ as we call it, is probably the highest rated in terms of journal impact factor. So journal impact factor and article level metrics are also important. Now, another thing that I've just recently found is altmetrics. Altmetrics they're meant to supplement other types of metrics. So altmetrics are the number of mentions you get in social media, the number of your appearances on the internet, et cetera. Now, I haven't found anything that could tell me how to monitor your altmetrics. So if any of you know anything, I'd be glad to hear about it. Moving on to service, the elements of service are, the usual, serving on committees that are both external and internal to your institution, delivering PD to your colleagues like we're doing now, and also to the wider academic community, engaging in student activities as a faculty mentor or whatever, serving as a mentor, promoting the institution at a local or a global level are all elements of service. Now, the activity that I recently engaged in was an activity that asks me it gave me like 3 or 4 minutes to write a list that would fit on one slide of your career defining moments. So here is my list. So when I did this list, I had things like, for me, it was this decision to even go to university. I made that kind of quickly. Changing my major from business to foreign languages, because I wasn't doing well in business, but I found my niche when I went to foreign languages. Discovering my academic specialty, what I wanted to do my dissertation on early in my dissertation. 5 minutes. Okay. So you can read these at your leisure. But what was interesting to note is that after I presented this the first time, someone in the audience said, why didn't you include being TESOL president, which is kind of my proudest career moment, and your publications. There's nothing on my career defining moments that people associate with me the most, which is TESOL president and publications. And I thought, that's interesting. But remember, the research in Teacher Mojo says that things have to be recent. So it's like that old adage, what have you done lately? Not what did you do? For me, TESOL president was 2011, 2012, over a decade ago. I encourage you to do this. So I'm going to spend my last few minutes on giving you some helpful strategies. Well, decide what matters to you and then do it, whether it's on your performance appraisal or not. Also, expect to work hard. I don't know anybody out there who has the kind of academic excellence that I admire who's lazy. Okay, it's going to take some hard work, and you're going to you're going to have to work nights and weekends like we all are doing today. And this whole idea relates to motivation and discipline. One of my favorite sayings is the Henry Ford saying, the best never rests. And I truly buy into that. Never stop learning. I think, who said that? It was Mick, right, in his presentation today. It's 30 plus years of teaching for me, and I'm still learning, not only from my field, but also from my students and colleagues. Don't be like me, have a plan. I was lucky that I got to where I'm at without having any kind of explicit plan. Have systems in place for keeping track of what you do. I have a really intricate folder system on my laptop. Anytime I get something that proves, I've done something. When I learned how to turn an email into a PDF file, I became so dangerous because literally it was so easy to kind of save things that could be used to prove that you've done this or that or the next. So have a system for storing your evidence, pursue and engage in personal and professional development. Also, continue setting goals as well. This is so important. There are a number of behaviors that are associated with high-achieving people. Here they are on the slide. Read. Hang with people that build you up, basically. The research that you develop the characteristics of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you hang out with losers, hey, where are you going to go? So surround yourself with people who are doers and who achieve the same way you want to achieve. Seek out people, mentors who have skills that you want to develop. Increasing your self-awareness, your emotional intelligence, always a good idea. And engage in extracurriculars that you enjoy. Now, you might be thinking, 1 minute. You might be thinking, I don't have time for extracurriculars, but all the self-development books say that you will be more efficient and more effective if you engage in curriculars. Take care of yourself, allow time to recharge. Like, this is my national day of vacation. There's no better way than spending a few days doing a little bit of professional development with you and then going off and spending the remaining 3 days of my national day having some fun. So be adaptable and never give up. Remember, failure is only failure if you accept it as such. So with that, I'm going to give you my email if you'd like a copy of this presentation or to make a comment or a question. There's my email, and I hope I have stuck to my 30 minutes. Thank you very much. Dina, the mic is on.
So let me find just this. Where can I find it? Can you show me where is the file? No, where is it? Oh, that you're up here. Is it showing now? Yes. Oh, but do we can stop? Yes. We can just put it up. Thank you. Just this. Okay.
Hello? Okay, it's working. Hello, everyone. I'm going to continue with our next plenary speaker, Dr. Dina Borai. Dr. Dina Borai is a global education consultant specialized in assessment and evaluation. She's currently a board member of the National Academy of the Science and Skills Academy in Cairo and a trustee of the International Research Foundation for English Language Education located in the US. Dr. Borai has 3 decades of experience in higher education, administration, and leadership, teaching, research, and assessment, and evaluation. Dr. is also was a past president of TESOL International Association from 2013-2015. And she has published and presented extensively at international conferences on issues of assessment, literacy, language testing and assessment, teacher beliefs and student and teacher motivation, teacher professional development and effectiveness, and English as a lingua franca. Dr. Borai will present 2 talks today, so please stick around for the second one. All right, and without further ado, the floor is yours, Doctor, please.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Just want to make sure I know how to move the slides. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much for inviting me, Okon. You know my name now, Dina Borai. And this is my second time in Qatar University, and I'm very pleased to be here today. I'm going to talk to you about an experience I had. Again, I'm sorry, I'm going to be talking about AI, but nothing like what you did. It was amazing, a great presentation, an experience I have with the university in Cairo. The university is a private university, and of course, they have a very nice English program, and I'm there helping them to improve what they're doing. So as a consultant, I did the very normal things, improved their curriculum, helped with the learning outcomes, observed classrooms. I did a lot of observations and designing rubrics across the 5 levels. All kinds of rubrics, whether they were written rubrics or speaking rubrics. Then, and this is just, I just want to give you an example, just so it's nothing fancy, it's just a rubric of 5 levels that they wanted, and that has been working very well for the last year. The classroom observations, I noticed something that was very, very unusual. Teachers were getting the students to write in class, getting them to write drafts, and their exams were also in class. And so there wasn't any discussion at all from the teachers regarding AI. It was a terrible silence. I was quite shocked because I'm talking about this past year. This is the era of AI. And so something was missing. And so I went back to the director of the program and told her, could I do a workshop or some session where we talk about AI? She agreed, and we went ahead with that. So I offered. It wasn't a workshop. I decided I wanted to have it more of a series of discussions. I didn't want to just stand there and talk to them. I just wanted to be honest, to listen to them. So here are a series of questions all about AI, about what they did with it, how they felt about it, and whether there should be a policy in the use of AI in writing. Should we use AI for listening and speaking activities? Should we do prompt engineering, teaching them how to write prompts? There was honestly not much. It was very bland. They all nodded their heads. There wasn't a real discussion. And for the I had proposed that we use AI to produce MCQ tests, multiple choice tests for reading. Everything went fine, and nothing interesting was happening. Suddenly, question 7. That was really, really very, very interesting. When question 7 came up, they started telling me all about what's happening in their mind. Actually, it was only one teacher. I just want to get back. It was actually one teacher that came up and just said, she said she used AI to provide feedback to in their writing. That was such a huge change because nobody talked about AI at all. And the teachers were looking at her with admiration, and they were very, very happy to think about it and discuss it. And at the end, they all agreed that they wanted to try it out. So that was a nice change. Then when we talked about the use of AI ethically in writing assignments, which is the idea of the trail, I think you all know about the trail of how to get proof of what the students did when they used AI. And they were very, very, very welcoming that they would want to try it out. So there was a huge change in a group of teachers in a university where nothing was done about AI, but I think they were using it hidden. And so that was the outcome. And we agreed that we are going to set an AI policy for the English language program. I couldn't convince them to do an AI for an AI program, an AI policy for the language program, because the director told me that the university is now working on an overall policy, and their preference was to wait before creating the policy for the English language program. And what we agreed on was finally that we're going to experiment next semester with the ethical use of AI in writing for the last level, the English 102 program course, and we will try it out. We haven't done it yet. So I started working with them on what should we use as an example of an AI use rubric. Should we design an essay rubric that includes the use of AI in a separate, that includes the use of AI, or a separate rubric with for AI use? So I wasn't sure what to tell them. And so I decided to go to my buddy, ChatGPT, and here is what it said. Should we use a separate standalone rubric and why? It provides five answers, and it was very convincing to me because it focuses on the AI and it doesn't focus just on the writing. So it was better to use an AI rubric. And it also avoids confusion between writing ability and AI literacy. And actually, not all the tasks will allow AI. So this is a third important reason. It avoids penalizing students who choose not to use AI. And of course, as AI evolves over time, it is much easier to update the AI rubric rather than update the writing rubric. So this is the reasons. And so with that, we agreed that we will go ahead and design this separate rubric. Again, you can see I'm a fan of ChatGPT. I like it, I use it, but I also make sure that if I use anything from ChatGPT, we acknowledge it, as our colleague said. So thank God we're doing it ethically. So I wanted to see what kind of rubrics are used all over the world. And I literally asked the ChatGPT to make sure that it provides something from the source and not something it creates. So here's the first prompt I used, and as I said, I made sure that it doesn't create its own. So it actually provided me the first time around with some very, very interesting rubrics, AI rubrics, from 4 universities, actually 3 universities, Southern Illinois University, University of Cambridge, something called Conestoga College, and a publication from 4 researchers. They created an AI assessment scale, which I found interesting. I'll show you examples of these rubrics. I went on. I thought 4 is not enough, so I became greedy, and I started asking it more, wanting more. It gave me a total of 15, and I only used 8 of them. The others weren't really very relevant. And it'd be very interesting to know, I couldn't find any AI rubrics used in English language programs. I tried several prompts, I couldn't find any. So my conclusion is that English programs don't really put it on their website or anything. In fact, I called in my old colleagues in the American University in Cairo, where I worked for many years. You won't believe they wouldn't share it with me. They are using AI in writing essays in that my university, and they said they're still working on it, and they just didn't want to share it with me. I don't know if any of you have had this experience, but it was a very strange experience for me. That it's still strange, but that's the situation in Cairo. Then what I did was I thought about the different rubrics I collected. Now, these are the classical rubrics that I have worked with all my life as an assessment person. We have the normal, the analytic, the holistic, and the descriptive rubric where you just don't have any numbers, you just have descriptors. So with all the 8 rubrics I got in general, I decided I'm going to classify them. So here's my classification of the AI rubrics. I haven't found a classification. This is something I just made up from the 8 that I collected from ChatGPT. All right. So there were essay rubrics embedded with AI criteria, and I'm going to show you each of those 5 examples. Then there is an AI use rubric that's just pure AI. There is a rubric which is something called a full disclosure form, where students have to declare every single detail on how they used AI, whether it's starting from the prompts, logs, drafts, edits, teacher feedback. Everything has to be put in a huge file of evidence of how they used AI ethically. And then there was another form, and I'll show, again, give you examples for each and every one of them, a full disclosure form plus a reflection on their use of AI in the writing of an essay. And the last one was just the one that I mentioned, which is about the AI, the levels of AI from a policy. This is for a policy scale from none to all, which is again useful for university to have a rubric for their policy in the year end, in the level of use of AI in the different assignments and the different maybe levels of their university studies. So it's an interesting idea. Here's the first one. This is the one with embedded AI. You can see the writing levels of the criteria up, and the rest of it is all about the use of AI, and it actually included a reflection on AI. So that's a mixed rubric, which I decided not to use in the university that I'm consulting with, because I think it just, as I explained why it conflates both writing and AI. This one is the pure AI, right? Typical, and it's an example. This is from the Metropolitan State University of Denver. And if you ever want the slides, you just write me an email, and I'll give you my email at the end, and I'll send you the whole, with the links too. So, because I want to share and want to make sure that, because it's hard finding these things, and it took me a long time, but it's very useful for our future, I think, what's happening to us in our English language teaching. And then the next one is the one which is a disclosure. That's the one from Cambridge. And you can just see the questions, just questions where students have to give a lot of feedback to their teachers. And this is the AI disclosure form without the reflection. And so here's the next one from LSE, which is the London, London School of Economics, yeah. That's the one they use, which includes the reflection in the whole, for what they want. This is just, I'm showing you an example of how much that the students have to provide to prove that they used AI ethically. It's a lot of work, but it's a very interesting approach from my point of view, and hopefully you can use it or try it out yourselves. Then there's the reflection. This is just a pure reflection, another rubric, but it doesn't have any numbers, no scoring. If I wanted, and I'm thinking of that, and I'm going to put this, when I create something for the university, I'll put numbers for everything. I'm an assessment person at the end of the day. And then here's the 5 levels of those 4 researchers, where you can tell your students the level of AI that they're allowed to use. You can actually restrict it completely from number 1. The number 5 is the full. You tell them, okay, use everything. And then you have levels 2, 3, and 4, where you actually can allow them some parts of their writing that they can use in terms of using AI. It's again an interesting. These are all very interesting ideas that you may. I don't know what the policy here is in the university, but this is something to think of in the next, I hope, or maybe you're already doing it. I don't want to be arrogant and assume you're not using these things, but it is very important to have very, very good rubrics that you can assess students on how they use it ethically, because I do believe that AI is going to be used and has to be used by students, but we make sure while they're with us in their 4 years in university, at least we are forcing them to use it ethically. That's just my idea, or how I feel about it. So what are we going to do? You can expect the next steps, which is we decided to go down the route of the AI disclosure form for students. So this is what I'm designing now, and designing a rubric for teachers to assess the students on their effective use. This is something I haven't found, but I'm designing it so that, and I hope that it will work very well for them. And then here, as I promised, are all the links that you want, that you may want, the 8 rubrics I found. Again, I will send them to you if you want me, the whole presentation. And finally, I hope, I really hope that we can still produce ideas. I know how useful ChatGPT is and how it's easy for us to follow whatever the young people are doing nowadays, because this generation that they're now in university love ChatGPT. And I don't see how we can really stop them, because there are many places at work. I see on, I'm still getting emails from my university, and I know the people there, and you can see emails, because I know them very well in terms of how good their English is, and they're using it at work in the university. And it's not easy. I don't really see how it's stoppable, really. But this is just something that I hope that we can catch our students in whatever levels of English, and that we can make sure that they can use AI ethically. So that's all what I wanted to say today. And here's my email, again, ready to share everything. I think I finished early, but yeah, I'm really sorry. But if you want to ask me anything, I'm ready. And if not, I'll proceed. We will take, if there are any questions.
Anybody has a question? If you do, raise your hand. I'll come up to you.
Did you find it useful? Okay. This is the most important thing, that I've shared a little experiment of mine with the university. Yes, Oko.
Dina, it is not a question, but a contribution. Last week was a TESOL's virtual convention, and I attended a session on using ChatGPT to provide feedback to a writing task. And the researcher found that 48% of the feedback received from ChatGPT were wrong.
Wow.
Yes. So, but your presentation is not about the feedback, it's about maybe scaffolding or assessing writing. But I'm just wondering what your take is. If we have to maybe embrace ChatGPT as a guide, the way you want us to hug it, but
the problem is always the prompt. I'm really sorry, but I take a long time to write a long prompt. You're talking to as if you're talking to a baby, a child. And if you don't keep on repeating and telling it what you want, it won't work. That's just my answer to you. I have found getting ChatGPT to correct or to give feedback to students' writing does work. But you have to be very, very, very focused. I don't know. I mean, you teach writing, right, Christine? You can write a whole list of tips or points for ChatGPT to use to look for, because remember, it's still a machine. It's a machine. So we have to sort of direct it with huge, maybe, I don't know how many, 10 sentences, 20, it doesn't matter, but it will do what it's told because it's a machine. I love it.
Human intelligence to do something that we expect it to do. It has to be
Yes. Very, very much so. And so there should be now the art or you know, people should be taught how to, or not just people, everybody, any of us, if we want to get output from ChatGPT that is not hallucination or ridiculous or doesn't mean anything, we have to get our skills right in writing prompts. And I can't, the only thing you can do is to experiment, which I have done because now I have a lot of time to experiment. And so the better the, the instructions, the output will be quite surprising to you. Just try it. All right.
Okay, excuse me. Yes.
Yes.
You said that was it AUC did not provide the AI disclosure form that they were working on? I found the same in my own institution. Everybody talks that it exists, but it's not on a website or available. I'm wondering if anybody else has had that issue.
And then
Because
the,
if you did a search,
you're talking, yes, I mean, you're talking about the rubrics, right? Not the AI policy itself. The AI policy, I didn't look, I think AUC is working on it or has already done it. The university I am consulting for is still working on it, and that's why I couldn't say anything about what their guidelines are at all. I just decided I will start with an experiment on AI because we can't keep silent anymore. It's just enough. It's not going to go away, even if we press the students and everybody. I don't think it's going to work.
Dr. Bari, we have another question.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I've just come some 5 minutes ago. I don't know whether you covered this point or not. My question is, when it comes to AI-generated work, how can we make compromise between AI-generated work and some ethical issues like plagiarism when it comes to research work?
Yeah, I'm not advocating as a teacher. I'm not advocating that we want students to use AI and just in 1 minute they have their essay or whatever assignment they had. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm trying to say is that, first of all, the universities now have the, do you have it here in Qatar University? The detector for, yeah, I know, I'm being very, yeah. The detector for AI, which is the Internet in plus AI. So you can catch them. So they don't work. It doesn't catch it, just like Turnitin, by the way. Oh, it's that bad. Okay. Okay. We, the evidence, that students have to do all the work of providing the evidence, right? Yes. It takes a lot of time from us. I don't have any other answer except that it is the way forward because we cannot stop them unless you get them to write in front of you in class. I don't know for how many hours, but that's the only way, to be really honest.
Didn't work in some cases either, because I teach an academic writing class where it's supposed to be process-based, right? They're supposed to develop a thing. And so what they do is we give them the prompt ahead of time, and then they go home and get something from ChatGPT and they memorize it. And then it's written down in front of us, but it's still AI generated. And
yes.
It's really hard. And so for one thing I do, for example, is I track their midterm right in front of me with no preparation.
Yes.
For their essay, right? And then I kind of bring down their necks and kind of yell at them and say, you couldn't possibly have done this previous draft because look, you got a C or a D on the midterm. And then that kind of helps it a little bit, but not totally. And it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I'm just trying, I mean, I'm not saying what I'm doing is something wow. I'm just, as I told you, it's an experiment. It may fail like any experiment. And thank you for the feedback, because so I don't keep my ideas thinking that it's going to work. I have to be very humble then. And so thank you for that. Yes?
So, first of all, thank you so much for such an exclusive presentation. I've taken a lot of pictures. So I would like to benefit from your assessment experience.
Yes.
AI is here, very prolific. So what unique features should we focus on when we are assessing students that cannot be basically replicated by AI?
Yeah, that's my answer. If they're going to give me a wow writing, and we all know our students, and we know that this student could it's impossible for them to have written that, they have to stand up and present it. That's the only way left for us to have some impact on students. I just want to be very practical about it, and I fully understand what you have to do. And yes, of course, in this university right now, all the exams are done in class. I just want you to know that. It was just the idea of getting them to learn how to use AI. And that was, and by the way, it's only one assignment for the whole semester and not across all the levels. It'll only be the last 2 levels of a 5 levels English language program. Just for you to know that I don't want to create here something that that is impossible. It's not going to be possible yet. And who knows, maybe in the next few years, some of you will come up with even better ideas. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So just a quick question, kind of going back to Christine's point. So I feel like with AI and ChatGPT and all of that, I feel like, okay, we've kind of left the acceptance, like there was a lot of resistance a few years back, but now more and more people are accepting it. And then now we're entering kind of the implementation phase where universities, but like you said, there isn't that many universities that have officially implemented or have a policy. So my question is, where do you think, or why do you think there's hesitation for institutions to officially implement policies and rubrics and whatnot with AI?
The problem is, I think a lot of us teachers, I'm a very old teacher, and that's sort of crumbling my, the whole thing I knew about teaching English writing, because we have to change and think differently. It's there, I mean, you're older than your students, so in their generation, the machines will do a lot of the writing. The idea of us teaching writing may disappear. I don't know, I'm just making it up, but I'm just saying changes are usually very hard, and especially for us in universities. Universities are not like businesses. In universities, any change takes years and years to happen. And the only thing we can do is to make sure that, like what you were saying, getting them to write in an hour or an hour and a half in front of you. That's the best we can do. But later on, they will use ChatGPT if they want to produce a report or something longer than how much they are allowed to write in the classroom session. That's how I see it. And I hope it has, yes.
So, Dina, I'm going through this in my mind. It's a really interesting presentation. And it just hit me. You're asking a teacher to use a rubric to evaluate the evidence that the student gives,
Yes.
right? Maybe that's the perfect place to have the AI doing the evaluation. In other words,
True.
if the student groups all of their
Yes.
prompts to the AI around a particular project,
That's a good idea
then
too.
the
I didn't
last
think about
thing
it.
to do-
I'm dumb. I should have listened to you.
the very last thing is to say, okay, now please give me feedback on how I have used AI as part of this project. Have I used it independently?
That's a good point. And also the teachers could run that too. Yeah. Okay, I mean, these are just ideas, and we'll see how it goes in the next few years. Okay.
Okay. I think we're out of time,
Yes,
but
yes.
Dr. Barai will give another talk in 15 minutes.
Is it a talk or is it it's a workshop sort of with me on
practical
stage? I don't know.
strategies, yeah, for teachers, so.
We'll do it together.
Yes. So please hang around if you'd like, but we'll
So,
do 15 minutes.
what time does it start?
2:15.
2:15, okay. I thought it was 2 o'clock.
There will be another moderator to help you guys.
Oh, thank you so much. You're lovely. Thank you.